It was one of those dreary London evenings when the rain fell in relentless sheets and the gas lamps of Baker Street flickered like half-hearted sentinels against the gloom. I, Dr. John Watson, sat by the fire with my medical journal, while Holmes leaned in his habitual manner over the cluttered desk, eyes gleaming with the restless energy that only an unsolved mystery could evoke. Suddenly, the sound of wheels halted outside, followed by hurried footsteps on the stair. A knock at the door was briskly answered by Mrs. Hudson, and moments later a distinguished gentleman entered our sitting-room. His attire bespoke wealth, but his trembling hands betrayed great agitation. "Mr. Sherlock Holmes?" he asked, voice taut with anxiety. Holmes rose, offering a slight bow. "At your service, sir. Pray, sit down. I deduce you have come from some distance, perhaps Windsor, and that the matter concerns not your business, but your household." The man started. "Extraordinary! You are correct, sir. I am Lord Edward Harrington, steward to the royal household at Windsor. A theft most grievous has occurred. A relic of immense importance has been stolen. His Majesty's golden jar, a priceless heirloom presented to the family 3 centuries ago, vanished last night." "A golden jar, you say? How curious! And the circumstances of its disappearance?" Lord Harrington explained. The jar had been displayed in a locked glass cabinet in the Royal Gallery. The room was guarded, the locks intact, and only 3 keys existed, one with Harrington, one with the Chief of Security, Colonel Briggs, and the third with Lady Eleanor, a trusted member of the royal family. Yet this morning the cabinet stood empty, no glass broken, no lock forced, and the guards swore no one entered the chamber during the night. Holmes's eyes gleamed with delight at the challenge. A theft from within a fortress with no forced entry, a veritable locked room mystery. "Watson, pack your bag. We depart for Windsor at once." By evening we were ushered into the grand yet tense atmosphere of the castle. The golden jar's absence had cast a pall over the household. Holmes inspected the gallery. The cabinet showed no signs of tampering. Guards stood rigid, anxious. Holmes turned to Harrington. "Who discovered the loss?" "A maid, early this morning," replied the steward. "And the keys?" "They are all accounted for. Mine never left my possession. Colonel Briggs insists the same. Lady Eleanor, too, swears hers remained in her jewel box." Holmes asked to interview the 3 key holders. Colonel Briggs was a stern, square-jawed man, indignant that suspicion could fall on him. Lady Eleanor, a poised woman of gentle speech, seemed wounded by the very idea of mistrust. Harrington himself appeared devoted yet nervous, as if the shame of the theft lay heavily on his shoulders. Holmes questioned each with quiet intensity, noting every inflection. Then he examined the gallery floor with his magnifying glass, lingering near the cabinet's base. He plucked a tiny object from the carpet, a single thread of crimson velvet. "Watson," he murmured, "observe how often the eye deceives, yet the carpet speaks truth." That evening Holmes requested a tour of the household servants' quarters. We met the butler, footman, maids, and the head housekeeper. Holmes' gaze lingered on each with that hawk-like scrutiny that pierced beyond appearances. He asked odd questions. Who polished the gallery floor? Who dusted the cabinet? Who washed Lady Eleanor's gowns? At midnight, while the castle slept uneasily, Holmes returned to the gallery. He tapped the cabinet lock, traced the hinges, even sniffed the air. Suddenly he bent low and examined the plinth on which the cabinet stood. His thin smile appeared, the sign I knew well. He had found a clue. "Watson, do you perceive this faint smudge?" I peered but saw nothing more than polish. "It is wax," Holmes declared, "from a candle, and candles are not burned in this gallery after hours. Someone entered here last night, unseen." The next morning, suspicion fell upon the maid who first discovered the theft. She admitted to dusting the gallery in the evening and to owning a crimson velvet ribbon. Yet Holmes dismissed the suggestion at once. "No, Watson," he whispered, "the poor girl is no thief. Her manner lacks guile, and the ribbon thread I found bears a finer weave than hers. Someone else has sought to cast suspicion upon her." Colonel Briggs was the next to draw scrutiny. He had once suffered debts at the gaming table, and rumor whispered he had not entirely abandoned his vices. But when pressed, his alibi proved solid. He had been with fellow officers all night. Holmes, though, did not look satisfied. Lady Eleanor, too, came under shadow. As a royal family member, she alone could have approached the cabinet without challenge from the guards. Yet her dignity and composure seemed unshaken, her loyalty beyond question. It was Harrington, the steward, who grew increasingly nervous. He hovered near Holmes, asking if the truth would soon emerge. His agitation seemed natural for a man whose honor was at stake, but Holmes watched him closely. On the third day, Holmes requested a private audience with the king himself. Afterward, he gathered us in the gallery. Guards, officers, servants, Lady Eleanor, and Harrington all assembled, tense with anticipation. Holmes began calmly. This theft was no common crime. It was committed by one who had access, knowledge, and cunning. At first glance, suspicion might fall upon the maid, or upon Colonel Briggs with his debts, or even Lady Eleanor by virtue of her key. But none of these held the necessary opportunity. He gestured to the cabinet. The lock was not forced, yet the jar vanished. How? Because the jar never left the castle at all. It was hidden, most ingeniously, within the very plinth of this cabinet. A gasp arose. Holmes pressed a concealed panel at the base. To our amazement, the golden jar slid forth, gleaming in the light. "The question remains," Holmes continued, "who devised this ruse? Observe this crimson velvet thread I discovered. Its weave identical to that of Lord Harrington's waistcoat lining. And the wax on the floor? Harrington alone carried a candle last night under pretext of inspecting the gallery. Moreover, his nervousness was not fear of the thief, but fear of discovery. Harrington turned pale as chalk. This is outrageous! I am loyal to the royal family." Holmes's voice cut like steel. "Too loyal to your creditors, perhaps. You intended to remove the jar at leisure, once the hue and cry had subsided. But you overlooked the most crucial truth, that every crime, however clever, leaves a trace." Harrington faltered, then collapsed into a chair, burying his face in his hands. "Yes," he whispered hoarsely, "I plan to pawn it abroad, to pay my debts. Forgive me." The scandal was hushed with royal discretion. Harrington was quietly removed from his post, while the golden jar was restored to its place. Colonel Briggs was vindicated, Lady Eleanor's honor preserved, and the maid tearfully grateful. As we returned to Baker Street, I marveled once more at Holmes's brilliance. "You astonish me, Holmes. That the trusted steward should be the thief? Who would have suspected it?" Holmes lit his pipe. "My dear Watson, the world is full of masks. Often, the least suspected is the most guilty. The true detective's art is not in trusting appearances, but in listening to the silent testimony of threads, smudges, and wax. They never lie." And so ended the case of the stolen golden jar, a mystery that tested the boundaries of deception, and once more proved that nothing escapes the razor-keen eyes of Sherlock Holmes. Dear viewers, Hope you have enjoyed today's story. Kindly like this video, share your comments, and subscribe our channel so you can receive more videos like this. See you soon in our next video. Till then, goodbye.